So if you're a therapist in private practice or some other service business owner, you probably know, and it comes as no surprise, that it feels like we don't have enough time to do all the things we need to do to run, grow, scale our businesses, especially grow and scale, right? Most of us feel like we just have enough time to get the bare minimum done, right? We can provide our service, whether that be therapy or something else, and maybe answer some emails. But those other things, right? Those things to really grow and market, sometimes they feel like I don't have time or they're just bonus if I can get to it. But how then do we grow? How do we scale? Right? In today's video, I'm going to share from my own personal experience how I'm able to run a group practice, which has been able to grow, but also run this consulting and marketing business as well as create content for this YouTube channel consistently. And this is just going to be a raw talk from me to you. I'm not editing this video. I want to share with you things that have really worked well for me. And one of the things that you might not know, maybe you do, I am a real nerd for time management and developing systems and workflows. So it's not necessarily that I'm doing things at a different speed, but one thing I've really obsessed over is creating systems and workflows that have helped me get more done. And so today I'm going to share with you exactly how I've done that, what that looks like in my own practice. I'm going to give you some examples from my day-to-day businesses so you can then go ahead and do this in your own business and practice. What I really want for you is the ability to grow and scale your practice and to get some more time back, even if it's an hour, right? To get some more time back so you can really invest in your business. So without further ado, let's jump right in. As always, we are not about gatekeeping at all, so we're going to just share the notes here, all right? And like I said, this is a one-shot video, no editing at all. You might see me scratching my face and stuttering a little bit, but let's dive in. So the first thing I want to share with you is on a very high level, how is it that I'm able to get this kind of stuff done, right? Run the group practice and have this consulting marketing business. It comes down to systems and workflows, okay? Let me toggle that down. All right, so there's basically two things. Systems and workflows, let's call that one thing. So systems / workflows, we'll use that interchangeably throughout the video. But basically, I've created repeatable systems or systems that can be repeated over and over again for tasks that happen over and over again. We'll get to that in a second. And because I've created systems and repeatable workflows, I know roughly how long each of those systems takes, and then I'm able to block off time in my calendar to deploy said system. And I have systems for almost everything, whether it be for marketing, creating videos, billing in my practice, reviewing notes in my practice, writing my own clinical notes. Right? Systems can be made for almost anything. And I'm going to share with you how, exactly how to do that in your practice. But that's the high level how. Repeatable systems and workflows, blocking off time in your calendar to deploy said workflow because you know roughly how long it's going to take. All right. So this begs the question then, well, what exactly can be systematized? All right. Almost anything that is repeatable. All right. Some examples would be billing, right? So if you're doing any billing in your practice, note taking, right? So you probably write notes. Well, I hope you write notes for your clinical documentation. That's repeatable. We can create systems and workflows for that. If you do any content creation or social media marketing, that's repeatable, right? Almost anything. If you just think about what you do over and over again and it's repeatable, it probably can be systematized and a workflow can be created. All right. So I want you to be on the lookout over the next week or a couple of days for the thing. Oh yeah, I do this all the time. I do this every week. I do this every day, whatever it may be. Right. So that's the identity marker for something that can be systematized. All right. So let's talk about how. All right. Now, this is not necessarily, you're probably not going to be like, wow, right? But these are things people don't necessarily think about, right? They're maybe in the back of our mind, but this is how we're going to systematize. The first thing is we're going to develop steps. Now, the way I like to think about this is you want to imagine you are writing, and we're going to write them down. This is key, right? This is not just in our head. This has to be written down in some sort of document. And actually, if you develop, even if you're a solo provider, if you start to write down and create systems in documents, this actually becomes documentation that you can provide to someone when you hire them on. And this is going to really help you scale and grow, right? And it starts with writing it down for you and developing systems for your own practice. And so what you like to do, or what you have to kind of think about is imagine you're hiring someone who has no concept of your own business, your practice, how you do things. And we can even go further. Imagine you're going to hire a biller who's never done mental health billing before, right? Now, of course, if we're really going to hire a biller, we want to hire someone who has some experience. But if we're going to write these workflows, it's best to think about someone who doesn't have any experience. That way we kind of get our mindset around kind of the details we might just kind of take for granted. So we're going to develop steps. And again, I'm going to go through with you an example in just a second. And I'm talking like step 1, log into the EHR. Step 2, navigate to this part. Step 3, open up this, right? So very detailed step-by-step guide, all right? That's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing we have to do, and you might already have an idea of this if you've been doing it for a while, or you might actually have to take some time to do this, but start to think about how long each step might take. Now, we don't have to get so granular, like it's going to take 1 second to log into the EHR, right? But how long does billing take, right? Roughly. Does it take an hour? Does it take 2? Right? Does it take an hour most times? But then there's the exception. You want to get a sense of how long each of the steps, or we can zoom out a little bit, how long each workflow takes. You might have to time yourself, right? That's something I did. I timed myself for a while to get kind of an average of how long something takes. And the way you can do that, just do your stopwatch, while you're doing something. All right. And then finally, once we have this written workflow, we have how long it takes, we can then every Sunday or every day or whenever you want to manage your calendar, you look at the blank spots and then you just plug that system in. And the key is that it's written down on the calendar, right? So if I have content creation workflow and it takes, I don't know, part of it takes 2 hours. Okay, I have 2 hours on this day, right? Plug it in there, right? Maybe I only have a half an hour. I know billing usually takes 20 minutes. So let me put that there, right? But now we're planning our week, right, with these workflows and systems in mind. And often when we do that, we're really able to manage time much, much better. All right. So this is a quick kind of rundown of how and the workflow and the systems, but let's really make this real. And let me go ahead and give you some examples of systems that I use in my own business. I'm going to give you one from the clinical side and one from the consulting side. So one of the systems that, and this is kind of a mock version for this video, but I have a system for billing, right? So for the longest time, I did my own billing. I think I had 7 or 8 providers before ever hiring a biller, right? And when I first started it felt really overwhelming. There were so many things I didn't know, a lot of steps that, I just kind of fumbling around. And so what I did was I created a system, right? And a workflow. And roughly speaking, this is it. And what you'll see here, this mock data is not, or this mock workflow is not as granular as the one I mentioned before. But here we go. Let's kind of walk through this. So step 1, right, would be to verify session data. And I've broken down this even further. So review all completed sessions, right? So maybe, and I also put up here that this is going to happen every 2 to 3 days, right? That's flexible. It could happen every day. Doesn't matter. But when I hand this to a biller, they know they can do this every 2 or 3 days. That would be okay. And so what they'll do is they'll review all completed sessions. So let's imagine they're doing this on a Wednesday and they haven't done it in 2 days. They'll look at Monday and Tuesday. They'll review all the sessions that are on the calendar, right? They'll then confirm attendance codes. So does the code on the calendar, right, does it match the note, right? Or is the no-show and the late cancel, are all these accurate? So they know to check for that. If there's any discrepancies, we're now going to message our therapist, right? And then we're going to wait to hear from the therapist before proceeding with any sort of billing, right? So we have kind of this step 1 with these sub-steps. Step 2, we're going to create and submit claims, right? So once we've heard back from the therapist, we can now generate claims in the EHR, right? We can do out-of-network claims in this other platform. We can generate invoices for our cash pay clients, and then we can go ahead and submit all of these, right? And you can see here, we're creating this step-by-step instruction manual, basically, for how to do billing, right? And we also have a follow-up and payment processing workflow as well, right? So check the claims, make sure the responsibility amounts are correct, follow up on denied claims, document any issues for review. Now we can get even more granular on each of these, right? But for the sake of this video, I wanted to keep it a little bit easy on the eyes. But this gives you an idea, right? Someone could come in and say, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is review all completed sessions. Now, again, I can get more granular and kind of say, which, how exactly to do that. And certainly I'm open to do that. I suggest you get a little more granular, right? But that's a system, right? And now I can hand that to someone and say, hey, this is how we do things. And I know that this system, right, when we follow the billing on a given day, it takes 30, 40 minutes, something like that, right? And so billing all of a sudden is not so overwhelming. I know exactly what to do and I know how long it takes. So let's go into another, this is actually my second example for you, a content creation workflow, right? So, I'm making this video, hopefully you're watching it, right? So this is a kind of, again, a mock workflow. So step one, we have ideate, right? Ideate maybe takes 15, 20 minutes. I'm brainstorming ideas. I'm writing a rough outline. Using AI to maybe help clarify concepts, right? Never to generate ideas for me, but to kind of bounce ideas back and forth, perhaps. Step two, formalize content, right? Now we're going to expand the outline, create a blog post, draft a newsletter, develop social media angles, right? This kind of thing. Step three, film and create. Step four, upload and organize. Step five, edit. Step six, schedule and publish. And you can see each of these has kind of times on it about, how long they take. And you can tell that this right here, this takes a good amount of time. So I'm not able to deploy this, right, in one shot most of the time. But a video takes me usually more than a week to make, right? So I know that if I'm sitting down on a Sunday, all right, I have to ideate some new videos, 15, that's not bad, right? 15, 20 minutes. I can plug that in on the calendar. All right, I got to formalize my content. All right, that takes a while, right? Where I kind of create the scripts and the blog posts and all. All right, so a 2 or 3 hour block, I can try to find time to slot that in, and then so on and so forth, right? And this is, again, just another example of a system that I've created. And the point of this video is not to actually dive deep into the systems themselves, but it's more so to give you a sense of how you can begin to systematize in your own practice and give you some ideas about what can be systematized and then to go ahead and do it. And my guess is that if you start to systematize, you're actually going to find you have more time to do more things. And not to mention the bonus is that as we systematize and create these documents, we're actually in a better position to hire and to scale. Right? So at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe this video was a boring one. I really love time management. I love systems. I hope it was helpful for you. Hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, as always, leave a comment down below. Other than that, I hope to see you in the next video.